Hi, I'm Khalila McCoy, and this is the podcast that will put a song in your heart. This is Where We Rise. Hey, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here with me. I hope your week has been going good and that you are ready for this episode because I'm excited for you to meet Katanya Brewer. Katanya is well known in the Columbus area as a singer and entertainer, but to me, she is just that friend who makes me laugh, that friend who shows up to support me, and she's one of those people who just drops in those little nuggets of wisdom when you're talking and you're like, oh, wait, I need to pause and really think about what she just said. And I've really come to appreciate that about her. Today, we're going to hear a little bit about her musical journey and the twists and turns that have shaped her and the passion that keeps her moving forward. And I know you're going to walk away feeling inspired to keep moving forward in your own story as well. So let's jump in. All right, so we have Katanya today, and Katanya is the voice and the person behind Sidewalk Serenades. If you are in the Columbus area, you've seen her or heard her at the Gallery Hop. I think the last time I saw you, you were out in Dublin, right, at the Harvest Market. Where are some other places, if people are in the city, that they might have seen you or heard you?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I've gotten so many opportunities. I've been in Easton during the holidays when they lit the tree. I've been at other markets. So the one you saw me at was Bridge Park, North Market area, but they also have a downtown North Market area.
Okay.
They've asked me, they've asked me to perform when artists in Columbus were painting. And it was during a time that people were really upset about what happened with George Floyd. And after singing to them while they painted, because a lot of windows had been broken, I went and invited myself to the State House stairs where the state troopers were. I asked them, can I come sing? And they said, yeah. So I've sung,
Wow.
there. And I would say just all kinds of places. I was invited at the top of a rooftop of a hotel because a gentleman wanted to propose to his girlfriend. And she walked through the door and I started singing and he proposed. The La Meridian Hotel. So there's been different experiences. I would say the ones I like most, and then I'll end it at there, is our senior citizen community. So
Okay.
uh, memory care units and senior citizens that said, hey, I raised the children, I had the big house, now I just need something small and I'll take the apartment. And they have activity days, and I'll go in there and sing. Or when they closed down all of the restaurants and all of the bars in Columbus during COVID, and I went around town doing these little 20-minute concerts for people who still had something they wanted to celebrate in a unique way, since dinner wasn't an option.
Right. All right, so you shared a lot of stuff, right, in that first few seconds. So let's
Right,
back up a little bit.
right.
First, tell me why being with the senior citizens is your favorite.
Senior citizens appreciate music. It's so fun to see them light up. It's so fun to see them say, wow, no one's ever come here and done that. There's been a guitar player or we played bingo, but nobody's come and sang to us and interacted with us, had an extra mic and passed us the mic. When you talk about the memory care unit, then it's people who are suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's. And there's something about music that wakes up the mind and keeps it awake for maybe 15, 20, 45 minutes. And that amazes me. What I learned about music is it's the only thing that can get in your subconscious mind without your permission. So what does that mean? That means you're in Kroger and you're grocery shopping and you hit the dairy section and you don't know, but music's playing, because you're looking at your list. You get to the parking lot and you're like, oh, I want to dance with somebody. And you're like, where did that come from? The dairy section. Because your subconscious mind back here, way back in the mind, was listening. Although you might have been on the phone, you might have been looking at your grocery list. that is what kind of wakes up the mind. Now, I'm not a neurologist or anything, but I've seen it for myself. And I love it. I love that the nurses say, oh my gosh, she doesn't talk at all. Oh my gosh, sometimes it brings people to tears, so, and I was a part of that. And so how cool.
That is awesome. Do you go there frequently or do you have like a kind of returning schedule?
I'm working on that. I'm working on
Okay.
saying I would love to come to your facility monthly. Also, it's how do you reach out to different
Hmm.
facilities? Some facilities say, "Yep, I'll talk to you by phone." Others, you might have to go and knock on the door, and it always feels like you are a solicitor. Like, oh God,
Yeah.
who's this person? Trying to sell us harmonicas or something like that. No, I just have. So what I'm working on is creating something that shows like a little mini video, 1 minute, just really quick, just to show you what I do for facilities like you.
So you've been able to turn your singing into a business. So talk to us a
Absolutely.
little bit about how did you start that?
I've been performing as a street performer, if you will, for 16 years in the Columbus area. COVID really switched things around and change things. It allowed me to say, wow, um, I originally had a Instagram page called Girl Now What?
Hmm.
And the attitude was like, okay, so you lost your job, girl, now what? So he left you, girl, now what? So you gained 50 pounds in like 60 months, excuse me, 6 months, girl, now what? You know, so you got pregnant in high school, girl, now what? And those were all, when I look back on my life, those were all questions I had asked myself. But when COVID happened and girl, now what? I ended up getting divorced shortly before. My job that I had been at for 14 years eliminated my role. Girl, now what? And so you're living, your youngest son is going off to college and your dog who you love passed away. Girl, now what?
Yeah.
And Sidewalk Serenades was created because, girl, now what? They closed all the restaurants and all the bars, but you have people that want to celebrate their birthdays, anniversaries. They want to surprise grandma who's most at risk for COVID in, again, a unique way because they're saying, Grandma, sorry, you're not coming out the house. But
Hmm.
we're all going to bring our folding chairs. We're going to sit in the driveway and in the lawn, and we're going to have this lady surprise you and do a 20-minute concert singing like Frank Sinatra, um, Diana Ross, all your favorite artists.
Yes.
And that's when it was like, what is that? It's a sidewalk serenade. And it sounded much better than I'm a street performer because, okay, what exactly does that
Like,
mean?
what are you doing out there on the streets?
I I used to say something because I'm a goofy person, silly, like to laugh. And I used to say, I work the streets for money and a little bit of fun. And my husband was like, don't say that again. You know, I said money and a good time. That's why I said I work the streets for money and a good time. And he was like, don't say that again. And I was like, but it's funny. And he's like, no, no, it's not. Don't say that.
I was gonna say it is funny, especially if you know your humor. I could see some people giving you the side eye, be like, "Okay, well, thank you, ma'am. We'll talk to you later."
Well, I would follow it up and explain that I sing. And it's like,
Okay.
oh. But he was like, look, I don't care if you follow it up. Just don't say that at all.
Hey, that's a good husband right there, right? Most husbands don't want their women like out in the
Mhm.
streets. So,
Yeah. Like he's there with me every time I perform. You will never catch me out in the street without him.
yes, I know. I like that about you too. I always see him with you. He's got either your equipment or just standing on the side with a big smile on his face
Mhm.
supporting you.
Yeah.
So that's good to see. So let's go back again a little bit to the girl now what. So
Mhm.
pretty much what you're saying is you are seeing a need or a situation that came up in your life and your response was, I'm not just gonna sit here, right, and let life bring me down or take me over. I'm gonna make a response. I'm gonna do something to make a change.
Yeah.
So when I first met you, I don't think you were singing yet, were you?
Yeah, I've been singing for 16 years. It
Okay.
was just, I was singing in the Short North Arts District
Mm-hmm.
during what they call Gallery Hop. That took
Right.
place the first Saturday of every month. from 4 to 10 p.m. I had even been in a couple of bands and stuff, but what I found is that bands don't stay together. The drummer gets mad at the guitar player. The bass player's wife say, "Hey, you're doing too many gigs. You need to come home." Or they're asking me to sing songs, and I'm like, "Okay, I don't like that, but everybody, is for it, so I have to, sing it." But being a solo performer allowed me to sing whatever I wanted. And I am an extreme big Whitney Houston fan. And so it's like, hey, I get to sing all of those songs that I love or songs that I grew up to listening to on the radio. Songs like, that they were the top 10, the top 20. And my mom was in the military. We were stationed in
I didn't
Germany.
know that.
Yeah, she was stationed in Germany. I'm an only child, and she was very, very protective. So it was like, nope, you don't go out. Nope, it's nighttime. The sun went down, so you're home. So what do you do? There's only one American Armed Forces Network channel for you to watch, and great, it's the old folks TV stuff. I don't want to watch that. We didn't have a Nickelodeon or a Disney Channel. It was just that one station. But what
Wow.
did I have? Music. And so I got to listen to that.
So music has always been a part of your life. Were you singing as a kid then?
I wasn't in the children's choir. I don't think. It was always a part because I grew up in church.
Okay.
So what do? You start
You
the
sing.
service off with praise and worship, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so every kid wanted that tambourine, to be able to play along with the organ player or the keyboard player or the piano player, So was music a part of your life? Yep. It started there and it transitioned to radio.
Were you a standout voice when you were younger? Like, did you know, like, I have a talent, or did it kind of mature
No,
as you got
not at
older?
all. Not at all. I mean, I sang with the congregation, so there was no do something great. I
Mm-hmm.
would say what changed is I went on a cruise with my then sister-in-law, her sister, and her friend. And on the cruise, they had karaoke. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it because I'm never going to see these people again. So go ahead, make a fool of yourself or be silly, and I sang, and then I advanced to the next round, and then I advanced to the next round. But this time, as you advanced, the crowd got bigger and bigger and bigger. So this time we
Mm.
were in a theater, and of the cruise ship, and I was scared to death. And I think there was another guy that was singing who I kind of grabbed and pulled on stage with me, and I sang Natural Woman because, again, I needed someone there to. So it was the entertainment piece, the crowd's reaction piece that was like, wow, I'm pretty decent.
So is that when you came back and started doing gallery hop?
Nope, nope, because I was in the Chicago area then because I had married into the military as well. And
Okay.
so gallery hop started when what's it called? American Idol was popular.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, huh, I wonder what it feels like to be rejected. Just for someone to say, well, I'm sorry, but you're just not the voice, with a job interview, you go, you answer all the questions, and you'll get an email. They don't call
Uh-huh.
you and tell you they don't want you. They call you and tell you that we've chosen you for the job. Would you be interested? And this is the pay. But I've
Right.
never been openly rejected. I'd been with my husband at that time since I was like 16 years old. So never had rejection when it came to relationships or whatever, because the first
Mm-hmm.
one I pretty much was in, ended up being my, husband. So it was just a random, goofy thought. I wonder what it feels like to be rejected. But they said, we want you. I was like, oh,
So you were out looking for rejection.
yeah, yeah. Again, American, I would see American Idol and how mean they would be to the people. I'm sorry, you sound like a rabid rabbit,
Yeah, they were not nice at the beginning.
no, no, no. It's like you sound like a hurting monkey, or they'd just say something goofy. And people would just be like, wait a minute, what? And so I said, okay.
So
That was
you
a
went out to get judged, but then everybody was like, "No, you're amazing."
Yeah, pretty much they were called the Flytown Soul Review. And
Okay.
it was some young white gentlemen. I would say they were probably in their early 30s. And here I was, this old, 40-year-old-ish woman that sang lead, doing all songs that maybe if I didn't know the song by heart, I was very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Respect, I knew it. I had heard about it, but know it by heart? I don't think so. Then
Yeah.
there were some blues songs that, okay, I don't listen to blues, but that sounds familiar, so had to learn it. But yeah.
So what happened after that? So you did that competition and then
So that competition just came home and was just like, wow, I won. And I, learned that, okay, I sing well. I know how to sing. And then we transitioned and moved to Ohio. And that's when it was Craigslist. It was a website that we used often. We sold stuff on there. We bought
mm-hmm.
stuff, and one of them, again, I looked at music, said, we're looking for a singer. And so I responded to a Craigslist ad.
That is so funny. That's not where I would have thought to go to look for musicians, but I guess they do everything on Craigslist.
Right, right. I haven't been there in years. I'll have to check it out
If
today
it's,
later
yeah.
just to see if it's still, because people use things like Facebook, Marketplace
Mm-hmm.
stuff, not Craigslist
Yeah,
like they used.
Craigslist and eBay were the big
Yes,
things I remember.
yes,
I think
yes.
we're like dating ourselves
Mm-hmm,
because I
mm-hmm.
don't even know if people still use that anymore either.
Right. Right. I'm from the generation where you got in the mail an AOL disc saying sign up
Yes.
American Online.
I'm from the generation where we used to take those discs and put them on the walls as like decoration.
That is funny. That is funny.
So you're here in Columbus area. You're singing on the weekends on this. Well, not every weekend, right? It's once a month on
Um,
Saturdays at the Gallery Hop.
at the time, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. At that time, you've talked about how just the way music can move people and kind of get into their head. Were you seeing that in the people who would stop by and listen to your songs?
Yeah, and my phrase very, very often has been, do it. You're not going to see these people tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be like, a couple holding hands, and, I'm in the middle of my song. I might interrupt and like, hey, is that your wife? Yeah, we're celebrating our anniversary. Oh my gosh, I got the perfect song for you. It's only 2.5 minutes long. And I'd sing like Etta James at last. I'm like, dance with your wife. When's the last time you danced?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and had those kind of influences. If I saw somebody walking by and they were dancing, I'd hold out my hand like, oh, no, 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 stop. You have got to continue,
Mm-hmm.
and they would dance. Some of them couldn't, but it was just the joy seeing the
Yeah.
music, and how their friends were like, oh my God, I can't believe granddad is doing this in the middle of the street. And then the phones would come out,
Uh-huh.
make a memory and do something. And the cool thing or the scary thing about the internet is when people want to find you, they can find you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they'll find a video like, hey, we took this video of this lady, this blonde hair on the side of the road on High Street. Anybody find her? And then there'll be someone, that'll know someone who knows someone who works somewhere or whatever. And they'll say, oh, that her name is, Katanya Brewer. And then they'll say, okay. And then they'll
Mm-hmm.
find me on Facebook, or they'll find me on Instagram, or they'll find me on TikTok. And then I'd get a letter that says, or a message that says, hey, I just want to say thank you so much. That was the last time my dad and mom shared a dance. He passed away on Wednesday
Oh,
unexpectedly. And I'm,
wow.
you know, what? Wow, that was part of a moment, or encouraging a moment, influencing a moment.
Yeah.
Let music, do that.
Do you get a lot of those messages like thank yous and
I did, because at there was a time where I asked told my husband, I said, I feel like I'm the angel of death because I keep getting,
oh,
but he said, no, don't look at it that way.
right.
And then he kind of sat down and talked to me and just told me, maybe, you were sent there for that positive moment, that that
Mm-hmm.
creative moment, that loving moment that they would have, with each other. And because it was just all these, thank you so much because mom passed away. Dad had a heart attack. Thank you so
Mm-hmm.
much. There was a mom and daughter I went to sing for. Her friend sent me to sing for her. And
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, I'm going to sing this song. I want you two to hold hands. And when I say something, because I want you to listen to the lyrics, when I say something that makes sense to, that you agree with, that you're like, yep, I said, I want you to squeeze each other's hand. And I think I was singing Alicia Keys, If
Mm-hmm.
I Catch You, and
Good
so you
song.
see their hands squeezing, squeezing. And then the lady who sent me there as a surprise to her friend, uh, messaged me that I did it on a Sunday, and Wednesday her daughter was found in a car. She had overdosed.
Oh.
And so it was those kind of stories that I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, he, gave me you got to look at it in a different light.
Yeah, that's so interesting that people are reaching out to you, right? Saying thank you for these last moments. And to
Mhm.
them, it's a special, precious memory. And to you,
Right.
it's like breaking your heart that
Mhm.
this is,
Right.
I was part of that last memory. So I
Right.
think it's interesting to think of somebody else's perspective in those moments.
Mhm.
So you've had that conversation with your husband. So what do you do now when you get those messages? How do you kind of talk yourself through that?
They're saved. They're saved. If it's an email, they're saved. If it's,
Mm-hmm.
again, like I said, if you do anything online, people know how to find you. I get
Mm-hmm.
cards in the mail like, okay, how'd you know my address? But, nobody showed up at the door, thank God. But, I've gotten cards where people, or maybe I saw them again and they had that card ready. So those things get saved. And,
Yeah.
one day, just being, I guess, lazy, if you will, I'll have a photo album with these little notes. I sang at a senior citizen center, and one of the gentlemen, he was deaf, and he said, "I can't hear. I've been deaf since birth." He's like, "But I could feel your
The
energy. I could feel
vibration. Oh,
yeah, like you said, the vibrations. You are amazing."
wow.
Okay, I will
I mean,
again.
that's a high compliment, right?
uh, that it was is very shocking. And so,
Yeah.
but it was again something I'm adding this little note that he wrote me because I don't know
Mhm.
sign language or anything else will be just set aside, and one day I'm going to have a book, a photo album, if you will.
Do you ever go back and look at them now, like if you're having a rough day or if you're kind of questioning what you're doing?
No, no. It's something that maybe I'm straightening up and organizing, and
Mhm.
then I'll run across them and look at them all. I'm like, oh man, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember that. You know.
What's another one that I know you've shared a little bit, but like what's one that kind of stood out to you but surprised you that a person was grateful?
Well, when you went to people's houses and surprised them with music, neighbors
Mhm.
are like, okay, what is going on? Because it wasn't something that happened often. So people
Right.
would sit on their porches and listen as well. Or people would just come outside, and just be, just like, okay, I'm recording this. Lula Bell has somebody, singing, and that's just not normal.
Right.
But then also, I tell my husband all the time, like, you move off of energy, so if you have a group that, aren't moving, then you don't, and they're just kind of staring at you, then maybe you're going to keep the songs very, soft and gentle and stuff. If you see people really, really responding to, the 60s and Motown and stuff, okay, then you stay there. You keep it
Mhm.
going and stuff. I Someone had asked me to go to their friends, and I don't know, something struck me as like she looked like the mother of the church. So I started singing this song that I was like, okay, it can be considered secular, or you could see the religious component of it. And it said it was encourage yourself. And
Mhm.
I sang it to her, and I don't know what she was going what was going on in her life, or if she was just giving God praise. But next thing you know, her hands were up in the air, the tears were
Aw.
flowing, and it was just a moment that she and I shared with the Lord. You know, it said sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Sometimes you have to,
Mhm.
enemy, he's created walls, but giants, they do fall. So encourage yourself in the
Amen.
Lord, you know. And boy, oh boy, that struck a nerve with her. And we was having church, in her driveway.
Yeah. But she needed you in that moment, which is pretty awesome that you were there for
Yeah.
that.
She recently passed away, and because I know that because her daughter reached out to me and said,
Mhm.
"I don't know if you remember me," but she detailed it, and I was like, "Oh, yes, I do." And she wanted
Mhm.
to sing at the funeral, but we were going out of town, and I was unavailable. So,
Okay. You mentioned like when you're singing, you kind of just feel like what the people around you are feeling or like how the audience is vibing to the music. So do you come with like I don't know, like 10 or 12 songs like just ready to go to switch at any moment or how do you decide do you just know them in your head?
um, when it comes to singing outdoors and you've been booked to sing for 2 or 4 hours, then you have your favorites list.
Mhm.
You remember, okay, these were the songs that everybody, because people say, well, what do you sing? Well, I sing crossover music. What does that mean? I sing songs that a 9-year-old, a 19, 29, or a 99-year-old could hear
Mhm.
and remember that. So there's people that have made an impact on music. Stevie Wonder, Whitney Houston, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Prince, then there's other artists that songs that like Cyndi Lauper, Time After Time. You might not know the entire song, but you're like, man, that was
Used
in a
to.
movie. That
Yeah.
sounds familiar,
Yeah.
and so songs like Stand By Me or You Got a Friend in Me, Toy Story,
Mhm.
so there's songs that people recognize. Celebration, Cool in the Gang.
Mhm.
Those kind of things. It's almost like, can you imagine being a comedian and you're delivering your stuff and everybody's staring back at you like you're not funny?
Right.
That's
Awkward.
that's what, yeah, that's what being, I think, a musician is. And where am I going? Okay, I'm going to seniors, so I'm not going to sing, you know, what's just come out, on the radio.
Mhm.
I'm going to sing things and take them back to their uh, junior prom, their wedding, first dance and stuff, the 50s, the
Aw.
60s, and stuff like that. Or I ask, you're asking me to come, who's their favorite artist? Or I
Mhm.
walk around the room before I perform, who's your favorite artist? And, make note of it and make sure that I kind of break that out. But on the street, it's all about crossover artists, singing stuff that people are familiar with, that people will say, wait a minute, I will survive. That sounds familiar. I don't remember, but I remember just that chorus.
Right. Have you ever had anybody when you're on the streets singing like not enjoy your music or say something to you?
Um, the most I've gotten was, "Can you turn it loud down a little bit?" No, but
Hey,
it's
we
not
can work with that. That's not
right,
bad.
right, right. But I will say that for me it's you know, when you're again feeling out if there's somebody across the street or if there's somebody selling jewelry next to you, then you show the respect of, not trying
Mhm.
you know, blow out the neighborhood and stuff.
Right.
When someone says we'd like for you to sing in our lobby in our hotel, okay, you sing, you don't get up there and sing, let's hear it for the boys or you
Right.
know what I mean, or I want to dance with somebody. You sing
Mhm.
things that are very easy, that are very nice so that
Appropriate
people
for the
yeah,
space.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the people on the second floor are like, look, I'm trying to have this conference call and this lady is
Mhm.
downstage.
How do you pick who you say yes to or where you go to sing?
I guess the environment, because where you are is an extension of you. So if
Mhm.
I go somewhere, hey, will you come sing at the hookah shop or the weed shop, or I don't smoke weed. So no, you know, yeah, I appreciate the offer. I don't do hookah or whatever, so appreciate the offer, thank you. But no, this is a reflection of you, what you say yes to. It's almost
Mhm.
like show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So,
Right.
Khalila, who do you hang around with? So if you hang around a bunch of gangsters and stuff, then I'm gonna be a little nervous to hang around you. So same
Right.
thing with music.
How does your family support you in your music? I know we already talked about like your husband Al is always there with you and kind of like almost, I don't know, is he like your manager or?
I, I tell him he is. I definitely
Yeah.
tell him he is. But I think he's so humble. He's just like, no, I'm just here to support you. I'm just here because, I love you and, I'm going to protect you and, you're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
alone. But I'm like, no, you manage. You manage. You give input. You tell me, you need two speakers, not one. You tell me, okay, I stood up and stood next to you because that guy looks suspicious, kind of.
Mm.
Then he left, so, I know what so yes, you're my manager, sir. My children, they say things like, oh, you're the voice of Columbus, which, that doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like
Aw.
that's too much. You know what I mean? I
Hey, you
just,
had a billboard here for a while. Is that still
yeah.
up?
No, it's not still, well, not to my knowledge. I didn't know it was
Okay.
going up. I just, I had some photos taken and I was at home with my husband and I get a text and it's like, hey, I saw you downtown today. And I'm like, I wasn't downtown. I'm here with my husband. What are you talking about? You know, and then he sends me a picture and I'm like, you have got to be kidding. There's a digital billboard of me. And so I was
That
like,
was so cool.
yeah, so I was like, okay, get dressed. We're going downtown. I took a picture of this, but nobody told me. It's like, oh yeah, you're what's the word? You're at bus stops too. So they had, bus stop advertisements or
Mm-hmm.
about music in Columbus. So when the rotation was over, I got those. Those are here in my house.
Okay.
Where am I going to do with them? I don't know, but
It's a nice memory. It was
exactly.
a good picture too, so you can just, keep it for
Yeah.
that.
Right, right, right.
So you said your kids say you're the voice of Columbus. Do they come out or because they're not in town, right?
One son, he works a lot, so he's, not available. When he is, yes, he comes out. My other son he's getting his PhD and he is in Kentucky, so he
Okay.
doesn't come a lot. And or when he's in town, I just don't happen to have a gig.
Mm-hmm.
But they reminded me when I did Gallery Hop years ago that they came out with me and they were
Mm-hmm.
with me from 4 to 10 p.m. when I sang
Oh,
6 hours downtown.
wow.
And so, they speak, highly, of me and family, comes, the grandkids, come to check out what she doing and, supporting me and, just being there like, yay, we got free tickets to Ohio State Fair. We'll come listen to
Right? That's not a bad deal.
it. Right, right, right. Because,
Does your family sing as well?
Mom's never sang. She's never been a singer to my knowledge. She sang around the house, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, but she never sang, I would say.
Okay. What about Al? Does he have a good voice? Does he sing with you?
He sings, yeah. And we'll go to karaoke
Okay.
and around town and we'll do duets or he'll do some songs and stuff that and I think that's something I pulled into him because when I
Mm-hmm.
met him, he didn't sing at all. And the first song he did at karaoke, because that was somewhere that we went, is he proposed. He sang. Uh, it was his birthday. I had a birthday for him and
Uh-huh.
invited everyone to come, everyone to come, everyone to come. And they did, but I didn't know he went to what was it? He went back to the space and said, I want to propose to her on Wednesday and was asking everybody that was there, will you come? Will you come? Will you come? So there was a lot of people at karaoke that day. And I think I might have sang a song or something, and then a
Mm-hmm.
chair gets brought on stage, and then I'm told by the host to sit down, and I'm just like looking like, okay. And then somebody brings me a dozen roses, and I just remember him coming out and saying, he said, we've been together for a long time, and I think it's about time that we uh, that he sang first and then he gave his speech. And it was
Mhm.
a song, Always and Forever.
Yes.
It's so the
That's
whole
a good
crowd is
one.
every day, the whole crowd is singing this, and I'm still like, "What's going on?" I don't and then that's when he opens the ring, and my dumb butt snatched it out and put it on my finger. I got in so
I think
much
that's a
trouble
yes.
from my mom. I got in so much trouble. "Did you snatch that ring?" And I was like, I was just a little excited, and it was like I was gonna get on my knee and but you snatched it out the box and, like, ran with it, like, put it on and took off. So
Aw.
there's been several times since then I'm like, "Will you please propose to me again?" And he has.
He
So,
has? Oh, that's
yeah,
sweet.
yeah, like, yeah, we'll be at home, like, "Will you please just propose to me again?"
Mm. Something that you've dealt with for a while was health issues.
Mhm,
And when I first met you, I know you were having seizures for a while and you weren't really sure why. I
mhm,
I was thinking about this earlier today. I feel like one of your seizures is kind of what brought us closer
mhm.
together.
Oh god.
So
Did I
you
have
and
a
I met
sleepover with you?
you did. And you always forget this. It's so funny to me. But so we met at the gym, right? I was a fitness instructor and you would come to my classes. And one day afterwards, we were just kind of talking in the hallway. And I couldn't tell that you were having a seizure. Um, but we were talking and you just kind of reached out and touched my arm. You're like, just so you know, I'm having a seizure, but I think it will be okay. And I was like, what? And you just kind of like casually just laid on the floor. And like all the people who were working there like came over to check on you. And you're like, oh, no, 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 it's fine. I'm okay. And they're like, do we need to call the ambulance? Do we need to call 911? And you're like, no, it'll be over soon. And then you kind of like blacked out a little bit and they were all nervous. And then you came back to, and you're like, okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. And they're like, are you sure? You're like, yeah, this happens. So they left. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go home now. And I was like, I
You let
don't
me drive home.
think so. No, I did it. You're like, I'm gonna go home now. And I was like, no, I don't think you should just drive yourself home. You're like, oh, I'm fine. I've had this happen before. And I was like, if you don't get in my car,
Wow.
so you let me drive you home. But the whole way, you're like, I'm so sorry. This is so unnecessary. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's necessary. Like, we'll figure out how to get your car back.
I live behind the gym, so it wasn't that far of a drive, right?
Yeah, it wasn't far, but it's still like you just had a seizure. And I didn't know about your health issues at the time. So I was just like, this doesn't, and I didn't even know where you lived. So it ended up not being far, but I thought it
Yeah.
was going to be a lot farther drive. And I was like, this just doesn't seem safe to just let you go. But I'll always remember that. It was just like, no,
Wow.
I'm going to drive you home. And you're like, it's okay.
Well, again, the brain is so complex. I
Yes.
don't know why I started having seizures.
Mm-hmm.
The memory I have is my coworker saying, "Hey, Katanya, do you have the notes from the meeting?" And I went to slide them across the desk from her. She was across the aisle. And that's the last thing I remember. I woke up in the back of an ambulance uh,
Mm-hmm.
at Dublin Methodist Hospital. Like that seizure lasted so long, or I was blacked out for so long that they were able to call 911. The ambulance was able to show up. They put me on the stretcher. They wheeled me out of the building and put me in. They drove me to the hospital, and then I came to. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was my first ever epileptic grand mal seizure. I would say now, I know you say, "Oh, you always forget this," and um, I don't know. The brain is so complex, and
Yeah.
um, there was they didn't know why, I was having seizures. They say things like stress can cause seizures. Okay, well, I'm going through a divorce. Maybe that's it. A little
Mm-hmm.
dog died that I, just adored. Maybe that's, the stress too. But they said, and my job had been eliminated in a company I had felt secure with for
Mm-hmm.
14 years. And they said, well, I went to Cleveland Clinic because I heard that they were one of the top hospital systems when it came to brain health.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, we want to do this procedure where we just kind of put these little, almost like needles, all through your head because we want to see where they're coming from. I don't know what that man did, but he caused an aneurysm. When I woke up,
Oh.
I was completely bald, and I had a scar that went from my right temple and curved all the way back past my ear. And I was in a hospital for a while. And when I woke up, he said, "Whew, oh, we're so glad we almost lost you." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, huh?" And they a procedure that was only supposed to take about 2.5 hours lasted 9, and they left my
Mm-hmm.
husband in the waiting room. He was not aware, not clue. From that experience, I can say that when it comes to memory, man, man, it's been a dramatic loss. So there'll be people that are like, "Oh my God, hey, how are you?" And I'm looking at them like, I don't know who you are. So my
Mm-hmm.
standing phrase is, "Oh my gosh, how are you? When's the last time I saw you?" And
Right.
they'll say something like, "When you sang at my wedding," or "When we used to work together," and then maybe it'll come back or maybe it won't. But it always just amazes me, how a story like what you just told me, I don't remember that at all. And
Mm-hmm.
there's been some tears, there's been,
Yeah.
um, the fear of, is this really just the onset of like dementia or something? Am I gonna wake up one morning and roll over and look at my husband and say, who's this man? Um, those fears were, relayed to Cleveland Clinic, and they did an extensive testing on me as far as memory. And they were like, "You're fine. You're fine." My
Okay.
son, who's in a neurological program, talks about how important sleep is. Not cat naps during the day. Sleep. Go to bed at nine
Mm-hmm.
o'clock and get your sleep. Get this phase so and so. Sleep. Those are all important. And then I was, after still experiencing these situations, I was put on a different medication where my husband loves it because he says, "You haven't had a seizure in over a year." So it's like, oh,
That's
okay.
awesome. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that.
But I think I was singing at someone's party at a bar, and she just like, "Will you just come in and sing blah blah blah?" And I remember being on the floor and being so embarrassed for her, but they kept
Mm.
on partying. It was like my husband, he picked me up and was like, "All right, let's just go." But so she was like, "Oh no, it's fine. You're okay," because they they kept going, but I was laying out
Yeah.
on the floor. I was like, "Oh my gosh, honey, they probably thought I was drunk."
Like, hey, it's a party. She know what to do.
Right, right, right. Well, that's funny.
So I know before you've shared, you were singing one time the national anthem and you
Mhm.
had forgotten the words. Was that related to um, like the
Um,
seizures and things like that?
I sang there's 2 national anthems I sang that stick out for me. One of them was The Crew. They had just
Mm-hmm.
opened their stadium, and I'm like, "Oh, say, can you see?" And someone in the audience goes, "Wow!" And
It startled
it was
you.
it startled me, and it was like, and I think I just got words mixed up and like, oh my gosh. The other time I was at Nationwide Arena. It was the monster truck, festival or whatever. They turned off
Mm-hmm.
all the lights and they aimed it at me. And I don't know. I don't know if it's, I feel like I've been rehearsing the national anthem since Whitney Houston knocked it out the park back in
Mm-hmm.
1990, something like that.
Yes.
That's when I was like, "Oh my gosh, one day I'm going to sing it and I'm going to sound just as good as her." And but after those 2 experiences, I was like, "I'm never doing a national anthem again."
Will you
You
really never try again?
Nope. Yeah, no, that was traumatic in the sense of you're sitting in an auditorium of thousands of people and you
Mm-hmm.
embarrass yourself. And that was embarrassing to me. I cried like
Yeah.
the whole weekend. My husband's like,
Oh.
"Stop. We all have you. It's okay." I was like, "Stop being my biggest encourager all the time. I can hear you." But I was very, very, embarrassed.
Yeah. How do
Yeah.
you deal with setbacks like that? I mean, obviously you're crying, you're talking to your husband through it. Like, how do you get back up on stage again after stuff like that happens?
Um, the stuff that you do, and I had someone tell me that a good entertainer, a real entertainer can mess up and no one know it. And
Mhm.
that's how I've done things like that when the memory is lost. So there will be times I'm singing songs and I forget the lyrics. So I'm working the crowd and I was just like, girl, you remember this song, blah blah blah, and I'm playing it off because I'm forgetting.
Mhm.
Talk until the chorus comes, and then you remember. Also,
Yeah.
that's why you'll see that I have an iPad. And with that iPad and all those songs, when I'm singing anywhere I go, are the lyrics. It's amazing to me because remember, the brain is such a complex, organ. Uh,
Mhm.
Songs that I've been singing since I was in 8th grade that I still don't remember the lyrics, but I can
Mhm.
still forget them. But I have an iPad. I don't sing with bands because bands, they may go off and do their little, fancy thing on the keyboard or the guitar player might, and then I get lost in the song and even with the lyrics there with me, I don't,
Like,
uh,
right.
I'm lost. But I think that that was part of it. And how do I get through it? This is gonna sound so bad. Is that my in my mind I said it's okay. Because in a couple of weeks or months, you're gonna forget this happened.
Mhm.
So
When you think about everything that you've been through, do you feel like you use music as well as kind of a therapy, just like the way you've helped other people? Does music do that for you?
I bet it is. I bet it is. We all have a gift. God's given us all a gift. You know what I mean? How do you use it? And I do see it as ministry.
Mhm.
I do see it as, parents walking by didn't expect to see me, didn't expect their 2-year-old to start singing. I went to Amazon and bought these little plastic microphones, and I'll see, kids, I'll give them the microphone and they'll dance, do a two-step next to me and try to keep up with the words, even though they don't know the words and stuff. But again, it's my ministry, and it's a unique kind of ministry. What do? You bring joy, you bring happiness, you bring peace, you bring, you know what I mean? Things that uh, people, wow, I didn't expect that, but it felt good, you know.
Yeah.
So, in music, even in the Bible, what does the Bible say about music? Make a joyful noise to the Lord.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And it
Yes.
frequently links music with joy and thanksgiving and stuff, and it's seen as a way like to speak with God, and sing and make melody to the Lord with your heart.
Mhm.
And so even instruments, what I've learned over these past 6 years, 16 years of, yes, I love Whitney Houston. Yes, I love her. But saving all my love, even though I love singing it, it's about an affair, you know? And she
Right.
said, a few stolen moments is all that we share. You have your family and they need you there. I try to resist, that I'm last on your list as your adulterous affair, but
Mhm.
no other man's gonna do. So I'm saving all my love for this married man. That's not a song I sing anymore. You
Mhm.
have to be careful with the things that you say because not only is it coming out of your mouth, it's going back into your ears. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's coming on the inside, of you. And so music and what you're saying, even like with rap songs and stuff like I can't even keep up with it. It goes so fast and stuff. But a lot of it I'm not interested in because of what they say. And you have to be careful. Choose songs, listen to those words, understand what you are communicating to yourself, back to yourself, to the people walking by and stuff. Music is powerful, and so you have to pay attention, to what you're singing or what you're letting kids listen to in the car. You're mad at your 4-year-old because she's twerking, but
Where do you
listen to
think
the
she got it
song.
from?
You
Right.
Yeah, listen to the song, drop your butt and shake it, "Don't do that, Lisa," well, so you play it every time you get in the car, and
Right.
she's been told.
Yeah, I feel like over the last few years I've been really mindful about what I let
I
well,
bet.
me myself listen to, and then even the songs that Miles listens to.
Mhm. I
It's
bet, I bet. 'Cause
yeah. Well, I
you have
mean,
a
like you can tell, like even different frequencies like set you off in a different
mhm,
way. Like I
yeah,
know, like when I was a kid, we weren't allowed to listen to secular music. We only listened to
there you go.
Christian music and
Yeah,
things like that. And I just remember, the same thing every kid says. Well, I just like the beat. I'm not listening to the words. And my dad like
yeah,
would say the same thing. He's like, no, like those words are going to get into your head. It gets into
mhm,
your heart, and
yeah,
I can tell even now, like every once in a while, I like to listen to like, throwbacks that I used to listen to in college. And then I'm like, maybe I really shouldn't be singing this song. Or just like the way I let my mind wander when I hear those songs, like, okay, well,
mhm,
this is
mhm,
not appropriate. So, like, you're right.
right.
Music has so much power and it could be
Yes, it
used
does.
for good or not.
Yeah, it's influential,
Hmm.
so you go places and you see, people, like, what's it called? The rock music where they're just jumping around and, banging their heads and stuff. That's
Hmm.
music, that's music.
It is.
Yeah, that's music.
Yeah. Have you written any of your own songs?
Mm-mm, nope. I called myself one time writing a poem. First of all, that thing got so long. It was just like, man, you just wrote a book. But I was like, music inspires people, right?
Uh
And I
huh.
was listening to a lady, she was doing poetry, and I was like, oh my God, man, girl, like, oh man. And so I was like, let me, try and do something like that. And
Yeah.
no, I did, but it got so long. It was just like, oh, you hear people that other musicians that talk about, I started music because of Stevie Wonder, or I
Hmm.
started music because, you know what I mean? They had the same background as me, or they came from, they had the same, they lived where I lived, things, like that music will inspire you.
So, what inspires you the most?
Um, that's a good question. I think, I don't know. I can't. Music does, it's inspiring, getting out there, but I think I'm inspired by, my spouse. I'm inspired by my children who, doing, wonderful things I'm proud of.
Hmm.
So, so it just depends on the day.
Well, you've shared a lot today and you have a great story, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share. So, at the end, I always ask the guests for the listeners, now that they've heard your story and that they've gotten to know you a little bit better, what is something that you hope they take away from your experiences? What is something you want to share with others?
I will say from my experience, we'll go there. I remember in Sunday school, you always try to mess with the substitute teacher or
Mm-hmm.
and I remember us saying to the substitute teacher, um, because one of the Ten Commandments says, thou shalt not kill. So we said, will you go to heaven if you commit suicide? And she was like, you know what? You could. And we were like, oh, I'll tell the pastor, oh, ooh. And she said, until the very last breath, there is hope. She said, what if you took a handful of pills and then you said, God, I didn't mean to do this. God, I should have never done this. Please, God, and your life was lost. She said, until the very last breath, there is hope. And so from that, that is something I tracked her down and found her on Facebook and told her that's
Mm-hmm.
the best Sunday school lesson that I ever heard, that I ever learned. And until the very last breath, there is hope, Katanya. So even though your memory is something, that has brought you tears, is something that you've looked and said, oh my gosh, I don't know who this person is. I can't believe I've been singing these songs for over 16 years. And, my favorite artist, I still can't, memorize, her songs or, some that I need this. It's like it's, and so it's, but until the very last breath, there's hope. Just keep on keeping on. Keep on doing what God's, blessed you, to do.
Thank you for sharing that. That was wonderful. I like that. And I want to say I appreciate knowing you and hearing a little bit more about your story today. And your voice and your songs have been a blessing in my life. We were talking about before we started recording how you were in Mexico with us when we got married, and kind of last minute, the lady's like, "You need another song?" And I asked you to sing. And I mean, I don't even think anybody cares at this point that we got married. Everybody just talks about when Katanya sang at our wedding.
Good point.
But it was so beautiful. It was so wonderful. And then even outside of singing, I know we haven't hung out a lot over the last few years, but you're just so funny and
You know.
you're kind, and I enjoy just being
Oh,
around you. So
thank you so much.
you're a blessing. Even outside of that gift, you have another gift of just, being.
Appreciate that.
For the people who aren't local and don't get the opportunity to go downtown or different places to hear you sing, would you just give us a few lines of a song?
Oh, of course. I mean, we'll say this. I haven't warmed up, and
Yes.
maybe I should have, but the song that comes to mind to me is Celine Dion. She said, "Because you love me," and I think about just my husband, who he's retired, um, retired Marine, but he could be at home watching football. He could be, but he's helped me establish this business, Sidewalk Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I ever had an opportunity, and I sing to him often, to sing to him, you know, again, it reminds me of that song where she said, "For all those times you stood by me, for all the truth you made me see, for all the joy you brought to my life, for all the wrong that you made right, for every dream you made come true, for all the love found in you, I'll be forever grateful. You're the one that held me up and never let me fall. You're the one who saw me through it all." And see, I finished that. But I finished it because
Beautiful.
I finished it 'cause I had the lyrics in front of me. And again, music, right? It's what
Mm-hmm.
feelings sound like.
Yes. I love hearing Katanya sing. And let me tell you, I apologize. My software and editing do not do her justice. If you are in the Columbus, Ohio area, I encourage you to check out her website, see where she's going to be live, and go there. If you're not in the area, there's still some great videos floating around, but you definitely have to check her out. I will put her website and her Instagram in the show notes. Her smile, her attitude, and her voice will truly brighten your day. I just love how music has an amazing power to do that. Music is used in so many ways in our lives, and we don't even notice it. And even as powerful as music is, I like that Katanya has found a way to use music to bring joy to others and to herself. And I hope you know that you have the same power to bring joy to the people in your life. You don't have to have an amazing talent. As I mentioned, as much as I love to hear Katanya sing, I like her for who she is, and I like that she makes me laugh. So I encourage you to remember your own power and your own ability to bring joy to others. Not in a conceited way, but just to remember how important you are and the importance of connecting positively with others. All right, y'all. That is our time today. Don't forget to leave a review and join me on Instagram at Where We Rise Pod so we can discuss this episode. And as you move through the rest of your day, I hope you take a moment to listen a little louder to yourself, to the people you love, and to the things that connect us in ways we sometimes forget to notice. I'll meet you back here next time. See ya, bye.